We all start a business to help people. But what if what you do is a little bit hard for folks to grasp at first? How do you bridge the gap of bringing on new clients? With referrals, of course. Listen in as I talk to a BRB member who is a business and energy coach. Hey there, and welcome to episode 255 of the Roadmap to Referrals podcast, a show about helping you build a referable business. I'm your host, Stacey Brown Randall. Okay, super excited to dive in to today's episode. This is our fourth interview with a business owner who is building a referable business. We have had a series of these conversations with people who are inside my coaching program, Building a Referable Business, which we refer to as BRB. This is our fourth one. We have had this great series. We talked to a custom book and magazine publisher. We talked to a franchise coaching consultant. We talked to a real estate agent. And now we are talking today to a business and energy coach. Okay, before we get to the interview, I just want to say, if you haven't listened to the previous episodes, the previous interviews that I have done with other BRB members, there are some incredible nuggets in there about how they are using what they learn to create and build a referable business. So definitely go back, starting with episode 252, then work your way through 253, 254, and here we are now at 255, and just soak in all the goodness, all the tips and all the things that they share about what they're learning and why it's important, and then of course how BRB is working for them. So I definitely encourage you, if you're a first-time listener, this is the first show you've landed on, and you're like, oh, this is cool. What else is there, right? We don't always do interviews. We don't always have people on the podcast. It's typically me just teaching you every single Tuesday. But we took a break and we had this 4-part series to have, because I want you to understand what it sounds like from somebody else. So what it actually is like for somebody else who is putting in practice the things that I teach. And so we had 4 of our current BRB members come on the podcast and talk to you guys. Well, they talked to me, but it was for your benefit. Then talk to us about their experience, their success, and how they're putting things into practice. So I encourage you, if you're a first-time listener and you just found this podcast, you can definitely go back further. We have over 250 episodes for you to check out, but definitely start at episode 252 and listen in. And I talk to people at different stages within their time within BRB. And I think that's really powerful for you guys to grasp. But okay, let's dive in to today's episode, today's interview. Today, we are chatting with Nathalie Ekobo. Now, Nathalie is a business and energy coach, as I mentioned earlier in the introduction. Of course, she's also a member of our coaching program, Building a Referable Business. And I will, at the in the show notes for this episode, we'll post all the ways you can get in touch with her. And that, of course, the show notes page for this episode is stacybrownrandall.com/255 for episode 255. Now, for some business owners, it is very cut and dry what they do. And actually, they spend their time looking for ways to differentiate themselves from everybody else who does what they do. Think like a CPA or maybe a divorce attorney or even a travel planner. For other business owners, though, there is a gap for people trying to understand what they do. And this is the case for Nathalie. While she is a business coach, she also helps people energetically, merging intangibles and tangibles. So Nathalie and I talk about how generating referrals helps her close that gap between bringing on new clients, because there is no better way to share what it is she does and how she works with her clients than her clients, her raving fans. So let's dive into the interview. Nathalie, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. It's going to be such a fun conversation. You know, a lot of times when I have people come on the podcast, they may have been in BRB or a client of mine for years and years. And then I finally get them on. And I was like, no, I want to bring some people on who are kind of in their first quarter, their first couple of months. So you were willing, you said yes. I appreciate that. I'm so excited that you're here. And I would love for you to share with our listeners just a little bit about yourself and your business.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Stacey. I'm excited to be here too. Even if I
Awesome.
have a few little butterflies, yes, because it's just the beginning for me for this program. Yeah.
Yes.
So my name is Nathalie Ekobo. My accent is French, but I've been living 25 years in Arizona now. And I help women entrepreneurs and thought leaders and executives really to hyper accelerate their growth. And it can be personal growth, business growth, career growth. I really help them energetically, and I merge tangible and intangible things together. A few of my clients say jokingly, I'm a psychic with an MBA. But it's really that, I'm merging both worlds together, because I do truly believe that when we are aligned, we are creating then a bigger impact with more ease and with more grace. So that's what I help my clients achieve.
I mean, and who doesn't want more ease and more grace in their life? We all need that more probably than we all have right now. So that is awesome. That is awesome. Okay. So tell us then, you made the decision to join the coaching program, BRB, Building a Referable Business, at the very end of last year, the end of 2022. So you've just been in it a couple of months at the time of this recording. But tell us, when you're making that decision, okay, I'm going to get serious about referrals and I'm going to learn a way to generate referrals that works for me. And then you're here doing it with us the way that I teach it. Why are referrals so important to you in the work that you do and in your business?
Well, they are so important because it is so hard to explain and to convey properly what I'm doing. Because I am merging energy work with tangible coaching, executive coaching and business coaching, business consulting, it's difficult for people to grasp what they're going to get and how they're going to be transported. So the best way always for me is when a client is going to share that with someone else.
I mean, I think there's no greater not only benefit, but also just the way it makes us feel when our clients can talk to someone else about what we've done for them. I mean, they always can say it in words that we can't use. They always can, convey the sense of this is what happened. This is the reality. And I think that's so very important. So yeah, I mean, it's one thing hey, I'm a CPA. Referrals are important to me because it's how I grow my business. But you're CPA, we get that. We kind of know what goes into being a CPA. You're going to do taxes and tax planning and tax prep and all the things that a CPA typically offers. But to your point, doing energy and executive coaching, it's totally wait a minute, what exactly does that mean? And so you're right, having the client speak to the people who would be trust me, you need to hire her. Goes a long way when it's, to your point, it's not as cut and dry as to exactly what this is going to be. So
I'm in a transformation business. So how do you convey that, And it's always better when someone is sharing to someone they know directly, I got that result. This is how I transformed myself or my business, or I'm totally, you won't believe this. That's the word. That's the phrase I always hear from people is oh, you won't believe what just happened. So it's easier if they share their own miracles rather than me trying to, brag about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect because while it's genuine coming from you because it's happening to your clients, it just has a level of credibility coming from a client to a potential client that you just can't replicate in the same way. So that is awesome. Okay, so when you think about all the different ways that you do bring in clients, how do referrals kind of stack up to the other methodologies or the other strategies that you do? And why did you decide to lean into referrals as a strategy for this year?
I think it's my best way of bringing clients in, and it's my most it may be my most effective one. I'm not sure. Close second comes speaking, because when I speak to a group, of course, people are going to get curious and then they get into one-on-one conversations. and then we have a really heartfelt conversation, and then we know it becomes very obvious if we want to work together. So speaking is a great one for me. Mm-hmm. But my favorite one is referral, because I don't have to do anything.
You don't even have to stand on stage. You just have to do amazing things with your clients.
I just have to receive,
Just going to receive, right? It's so true, because obviously we kind of say that in jest, because there is work that we do to nurture the relationships, right, with the people who refer to us. But the truth is, it's not like you're standing on stage and then having to have conversations with people. So, it is different. But I also think it's important that people recognize that even though when they start working with me, I want referrals to be the biggest way, right? The largest piece of the pie of how you're going to bring in your clients. It is also important to me, though, that you have a diversified business in terms of how you're bringing in clients. And people even ask me all the time, they're like, well, I guess all your clients come by referral. I'm like, no, like a lot of them do. And they're easier to usually get them to become clients when they do. Yeah. But to your same point, there's other ways that people find out about me. And I think that's a diversified business development strategy is a smart one. I just don't want you spending a lot of time on the other strategies. I want you doing more with the referral piece. For me, it's people hear me on somebody else's podcast, or they may see me speak on, an in-person stage or a virtual stage, or they're just going to stumble across my book. Either it's going to be recommended by someone else, or they're going to find it through an SEO search. And then eventually they kind of work their way into my world. Those are all great ways. Yeah. But referrals is hands down, of course, like most people, my favorite way to feel like the client just arrived.
Yeah. And it feels also, it's my favorite way because it's more natural and it doesn't feel like work. You said nurturing relationships. Yes, but that really doesn't feel like work. It feels like play. It feels like natural and beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great way to talk about it. I love that. Yes, I completely agree. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what's happened for your business since you've joined BRB. Okay, let's be honest. It's slightly unfair for me to be like, tell us what's happened in the first 3 months, because it's been 3 months. Like, it's not like you had the benefit of being in BRB for like an entire year. When we sometimes have people come on, they're like wrapping up their year, or they're even in their second or third year. So, but I specifically wanted to talk to some folks who were in those early stages, because I think that's what people listening that are trying to decide, hey, I'm going to join BRB or I'm not, or whatever, like trying to make that decision. There's like, I understand probably what it'll be like a year from now, but what's it really going to feel like with just in those first couple of months? So then I was like, oh, I know exactly who I want to talk to about having them address those thoughts. So when you first joined BRB and we did your one-on-one onboarding call and we established your 90-day sprint, you specifically knew that you needed to have some conversations with some people who had referred you in the past. So some referral sources, that you needed to have conversations with them about how your business model was changing, because either when they were a client, before they started referring you, when they were a client, how you coached with them looks different than how you do it now. In some cases, obviously, like your rates had gone up, the packaging had looked different in terms of coaching. So all those things had kind of shifted. So the very first strategy we said, okay, instead of starting with one of our foundational strategies, we actually jumped right into a next level strategy. And that was, we need to make sure that you know how to have conversations with these referral sources about how your business model had changed. So that was the very first thing you did. You didn't even start with foundational. You're like, jump into the next level. That's like our third level, right? Since we go foundational, situational, next level. So tell us what that was like for you, like what it felt like doing that one strategy, having those conversations, what that was like for you, like what it felt like. And then, of course, talk to us about some of the results that you had from those too.
Yeah. So first I was scared. I must admit,
yes.
It's one thing to know where you want to go and to know you want to up-level your offerings and to up-level your business and who you're and the type of clients you are going to create. But it's another thing to really have those heartfelt conversations with referral sources. And I must say, you made it seem so smooth and so sleek, so easy. So so I had those conversations and it went absolutely fabulous. It felt really natural. It didn't feel like, I don't know, sometimes when you have sales scripts or stuff like that, it just feels so unnatural. But there, the words were just flowing out of my mouth and they were responding well. And concrete results out of that, I had actually 6 or 7 conversations with my referral sources. And I got one referral for a location. I was looking for a place to do some meetings, got that right away. I had one client reactivated without even trying. I mean, she really convinced herself that this was time for her to start again. It was just beautiful. And I got one speaking gig that is going to be scheduled and so scheduled for a little later in the year. So it's, I think it went great. And my referral sources that are also my clients, they happen to all be clients. They totally got it, right. And so it was just beautiful to see.
I love it. I love because I think you're right. And I think it's like being like when you're truly thinking about, okay, what is this going to look like as I go through this process? And I'm going to say these things that Stacey's teaching me to say. I think it's important that you're like, yeah, I was nervous, because everybody will feel that way in some small or large way, that's normal, right? Yeah. Even though, we talk about when we're in our group sessions or question and answer group sessions every week, and people are asking about language, and you hear me, even just in a couple of months, you've heard me say probably more than once, your language needs to be easy breezy. Like that's like the way I like to describe the language that I write is like easy breezy. Like it's normal. It's natural. It feels good to say, because if it feels good to say, usually that means it feels good to receive. And when it feels good to receive, then it has the intended impact we're looking for. Now, we didn't anticipate a repeat client, right? We didn't anticipate a client saying, yay, let me give you more money and I want to be a client again. That's fabulous. We'll take that all day long, right? And then, of course, we didn't anticipate that you would get the location suggested for you and then are referred to you. And then we didn't anticipate the speaking engagement, but we will take all of those hands Absolutely. Down, right? Those are like, it's always funny to me when people try things that I'm teaching them from a referral perspective. And then there's a surprise factor of sometimes how it works in other areas. And I'm like, it's all good. Like whatever that looks like, it is all good. Okay. So being a couple of months in, that was your very first strategy that you started with. You did that in January. You kind of had those conversations. And then you moved into building out your referral plan to take care of your existing referral sources. So we went from our next level strategy back down to foundational strategy that we teach in the GBR, Growth by Referrals training. And that was, hey, identified your referral sources, your existing referral sources. Let's create a plan to take better care of them. And since then, well, at the time of this recording, you've actually executed on 2 of the touch points for your existing referral sources. Yeah. What was that like for you? Because a lot of people are like, they'll ask me, they're like, well, what should my touch points be? And I'll always be like, well, I only share that with my clients. Like what they're ultimately going to end up being, like, that's something that's what I tell my clients what they should be. So you created yours, right? Within the framework and the formula of how we teach it. And then with all the examples and things that we give. But the question is always, but how am I going to feel? And what's the feedback going to be like kind of that unknown, right? It's like, not really knowing what to expect. There's an unknown factor here. So what was that like for you with executing on those first 2 touch points? And then, of course, the feedback that you received.
So I have about nine or 10, depending on who I count in, referral sources. Mm-hmm. And on the first touch point, I didn't have, at first, I thought it didn't have that much of an impact at first, right? Yeah. Because I had 2-3 people, clients, talking to me during sessions and saying, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciated it. And it was so nice and so sweet of you. And thank you. So of course I felt good with these clients, but then I was just like, and how come the other ones are not talking about it? And then the second touch point arrives and I implemented that. And then suddenly all of them gave me feedback, text or talked to me and said, "Oh my God, thank you so much." And the ones that had not said anything about the first one, then with the second one said, "Oh, and by the way, I really liked what you did the first time." And I was just like, yeah, it just needed to sink in a little bit, you know?
It's like a surprise that I watch each of you guys unwrap in your own way. So each of my clients in BRB, I watch you guys unwrap it on your own timetable and in your own way, but you all come to the same conclusions at the end, which is this is an experience. Right. Yeah. The referral plan that you've built with me, those touch points that you're going to do for your referral sources throughout the year, we're building an experience for them. It's not a one-hit wonder. Yes. It's not one touch point's going to give you an avalanche, right? Or open up the floodgates of referrals into your business. Like it could take time and it could take the building of those touch points that happen. And again, we don't do something monthly, right? I mean, so that's really important for people to understand when we're talking about this. It's going to be 5, 6, or 7 for most people, the number of touch points they'll do in a 12-month calendar period. But when they're looking at that from that perspective, it's like we're building an experience and each touch point builds on the next and builds that goodwill and allows you to occupy space in their mind and allows you to take care of them, which gives you the opportunity to plant those referral seeds. And so I think it's always so important that when people are delivering, like are having those touch points, right, be executed on, it's always to recognize that you're so close to it. You want an immediate response. You're like, yes. Everybody tell me how awesome I am right now. Like, you got it. It hit the mail. I know you got it. I want to hear from you. But we know when we get things like that, we don't immediately turn around and thank somebody. Sometimes it takes seeing them to trigger, oh my gosh, I forgot to thank them. Right. And sometimes and I always say, even when they don't give you feedback, it doesn't mean the impact didn't happen. It just means you didn't know about it. Right. Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's not there. And I think it's really important that we recognize that we're trying to create better relationships and cultivate better relationships with our referral sources. So that would make sense that we're going to do some work, right? We're going to put in some work before we actually start necessarily churning out, right? Referrals upon referrals or upon referrals. And some people, it's a snowball. It's like it hits and it's boom. And then other people's, it's a trickle. And then before they know it, they look back and they're like, oh, the trickle has increased and I wasn't paying attention. So I think it's so important that you shared not only how you felt doing those first 2 touch points, and that's just in one of the strategies that you're implementing, right?
Yeah.
What it felt like, and then the feedback that you got, because I think people do have that question of, well, what's it going to be like? Like, how am I going to feel? Like, what's the feedback going to be? So I think it's so great that you shared that and so important that people can understand what it's like, you know, to be in your shoes. Hey, pardon the interruption, but when it's time for you to double, triple, or quadruple your referrals, like right now, you need to join us inside the Building a Referable Business coaching program. Go to stacybrownrandall.com/referable to learn about everything you receive inside BRB and to submit your application. Yes, it's true. BRB is a small community of business owners because I want to know each one of your businesses inside and out. And to do that, that means we keep the coaching program small. So you've got to apply, we've got to make sure we've got room, and we've got to make sure you're the right fit. So you can submit your application again. That link is stacybrownrandall.com/referable. And of course, Stacy has an E. Now, let's get back to the interview.
Yeah. And I just had lunch with a referral source that actually came from out of state. So we went for lunch and she said the sweetest things ever. And then we're talking and she was referred to me. And then she had referred to me 2 amazing women entrepreneurs. And so we're talking about that. And then she just confessed that they're talking behind my back about me all together because they meet and then they say how fabulous I am. And I'm like, oh my God. And, and I think that like the meeting and the lunch we had together was possible because my mindset has changed or has changed already into nurturing the relationships.
Huge.
So it feels like I'm giving more. I mean, I was already a giver, but I'm even giving more now that I am in the program, and I am also receiving more. And I was not even expecting that warmth right away, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I think sometimes everybody that comes into the program, obviously we set a goal, right? For the number of referrals that we want you to receive in your first 12 months. But what is really hard to kind of put on the, here's what you're going to receive and here's what we're going to try to accomplish page when someone's deciding if they're going to join is how you're going to feel. Like it's really hard on a marketing message or a sales message to be like, and here's how you're going to feel going through this program, right? Because that is typically the thing that people find the most surprising and the most unexpected, but also having some of the greatest results for them, because for some people, it's like, I had no idea my clients who also refer me feel this way about me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And rising tides, they just kind of lift all boats. And I think that is just as valuable as the number of actual referrals you'll receive as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. The confidence I gained and it's funny because I've been doing this for 22 years. So you might think that by now I should be a little confident about what I'm doing. And I am. But still, I gained a new level of confidence and a new level of significance. Like, oh my God, I am making a difference. And
that is beautiful.
And that's the feedback I got already in just a couple of months.
I know. And just think there's more to come. I love it. Oh, yeah. This is so good. Okay. So, you've shared a lot about what it's your first, I'm asking you to talk about 90 days. I recognize it's like the little tiny time.
Yes.
But of all the things that you've shared, were there any other aha moments that you have had as you're just consuming the training or consuming the different strategies that you're learning through the trainings, or when I'm answering questions within the weekly Q&A sessions, like any other aha moments that you've had?
Yeah, I must confess.
I don't know what's coming. So
there is one. Well, my ego got slapped a little bit. And it's good. Sometimes we need to get back on track. So I realized that when we were talking about events and how I create my events and everything, it dawned on me that I was doing these events before to kind of promote my next offer, and even if it was not a hard sale, because I think it's not appropriate in this day and age anymore, but I was doing it for me and for them. But I was doing it for me.
Right.
And for them. But I was doing it for me. So with the coaching we had and everything, I realized that actually for my referral sources, it's better when I really only focus on them and I forget about me. And I get into that detachment that, by the way, I'm coaching my clients on too also, that if you want to receive more in life and in business, you need to be a little bit more detached about the outcome, and get into that relaxed place and open your heart to really serve without any attachment. And I discovered that for the way I was doing my events. Yeah.
Well, and I think for most people going through this, we fall into, I wouldn't say a rut, but just a way, right? Yes. This is just the way that we do this. And as long as it serves us, even if it doesn't serve us as well as it used to, as long as it continues to serve us on some way, and it's not like negative that we're getting back, we just fall into these like patterns, or we're like lulled into this way of consistently doing things the same way without realizing, wait, what is that ultimately doing? And what do I want it to be doing, right? There's nothing wrong with promoting things that you have going on in your business, right? What we talk about though inside BRB is we just separate out those sales promotional conversations from the times when we're trying to make this about the relationship with our referral source. And for you, it was the aha moment of like, oh, wait, those need to be separate because I'm always combining them.
Yeah, I have never done that before. Yeah, I had never put them separate before.
Yeah. So this will be exciting to see how that rolls out for you this year. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite part about being a member of BRB?
Oh, wow. Well, I would say my favorite part is you. It's, well,
thank you.
Sometimes you buy a program and yes, people are coaching you through it and everything, but they are not as involved as you are. And I must say, I'm very impressed. I mean, I have that level of standard when I coach and when I help my clients. And I was so happily surprised to see that you have the same level of standard. Like, you are here for us. You hold our hands. You just are so present and so committed to my success. That's my favorite part.
I think you're going to make me cry. I don't know if I've ever cried on one of my podcast episodes before. Oh my gosh.
It's true. It's so precious, I mean, when it happens, I think we need to recognize it and acknowledge it and shout it out because it doesn't happen everywhere. Let's just put it this way.
Yes. It's interesting. I wish I could tell you that I woke up and was like, this is who I'm going to be for all of my coaching clients. It's going to be amazing. But the truth is, I went through some programs of my own and I would feel this very different sense of, wow, super invested in my success. And over here on this side, could they have any more boundaries or rules or guidelines or ways of how they kept themselves from being bothered? And that's what it felt like. I don't think that's what they intended, right? Oh, don't bother me. I think they kept it as, hey, there's a bunch of you and I don't want all my time spent helping you. That's how it felt. And so I over the last couple of years have really paid attention to how do I feel when I invest in something in terms of not just the results, which yes, are important. We all recognize that's how we judge things, right? But even in some cases, even if the results weren't there, if I learned more and if I felt seen and I felt heard, and sometimes the aha moments that I would have you can't tie dollars to them.
Yeah.
You just can't. And so I started recognizing where I wanted to show up with the things that I had, ultimately purchased within my business and the things where I was frustrated and irritated and didn't want to do and was definitely not continuing. And then I was I want people to feel exactly how you said and exactly how I felt when they decide to invest in BRB, because while it's not a massive amount of money, it's also no small investment either. And I want people to be yes, and Stacy is there for me every step of the way. That to me is the greatest. I think legacy is probably overused in this situation, but I think that's the greatest thing that I can give my clients for the time that I'm allowed to be a part of your life and a part of your business. I want you to know that I am 100% here for you. And I think ultimately it feels the best for me and how I show up. I have tried it in the past where there's boundaries and rules and you only get so many calls and all this. And I'm I don't even know what the rules are. And then I found myself bending them. Just, if you need a call, just schedule it. I found myself bending the only rules I had made. And I was we're just not having any rules. That just doesn't make any sense. And ultimately it's working because you are feeling the way I want you to feel. And one of my drivers for my client experience is I always want my people to feel cared for. I always want them to know that I care about them and that they're important. And I love that. That means it's working, that I'm doing something right. So I love what you shared. Thank you very much.
It is. And then if I may add something that comes quite second to that is you have an answer for everything. I mean, I'm always stunned by, when we're in group and then people have other questions. And it's just wow, you have an answer for everything. And the way you use language, words to put it so simply, and it's effective and it's simple. So I really just love that. It's just like, wow, you make those words seem so natural.
Thank you. I do feel as if God did not gift me with a ton of things. But one thing he did was the language piece. It really does come very naturally to me and easy, which is probably why I have an answer for everything. My kids would say I have an answer for everything too. They're just not positive about any of the things I have answers for. So I appreciate that. Okay, so let's imagine that there is someone listening right now and they are trying to decide, is BRB right for me? Maybe they've applied but haven't joined. Maybe they haven't even applied, but they're considering joining. Like, what would you say to the person who just can't decide and just can't pull the trigger to help them understand why BRB could be the best next step for them?
Well, first, if we're thinking in terms of referrals and referral programs, I think it's the best referral programs out there, like by far. You know, I've seen stuff before and I've read books and and it is the most flowing one, the most natural, heartfelt one. So that's that. Second is a program like that. It's going to serve you for your lifetime in business because let's face it, referral, this is the best way to grow your business. It's the easiest, smoothest, nicest way because we don't have to work. Once again, it is not work, it's play, it's nurturing relationship. How does it get any better than this? And the tools we learn in that 1 year, we're going to use it. We're going to use those tools over and over and over and over again, whether you're 5 years in business, 10, 30, 40, 60, I don't know, because they won't age. It's relationship. It's true, heartfelt relationship. It is not a strategy that's going to have to change because technology is changing or because whatever, social media is changing or whatever.
Yeah.
It's forever true. And I think what we learn, we can get better and better at this. And which is making it more fun and more joyful along the way.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh.
That's why I think it's a no-brainer. That's why, I've been in business 22 years. You might think, well, she doesn't need it. And maybe I don't need it. But quite frankly, now that I'm in it, I'm like, ooh, there are other ways to do this and they are actually better and I can fine tune myself. I can refine the way I'm talking to people and make it smoother and easier for me and for them. I can get better at this. It doesn't mean I was bad at it, but I can get even better and better.
Yes. That is so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I may find myself listening to this on repeat because it's just when I'm having a bad day or, when the technology decides to be a little bit of a pain in my bottom, I'm like, I'm just going to go listen to that conversation. Mm-hmm. That would be awesome. Okay. So please share with the listeners who are listening where they can find you. Where's the best place for them to find you? So if they're interested, they can reach out.
So, well, they can go to my website, which is my name, Nathalie Ekobo. That's NATHALIEEKOBO.com. NATHALIEEKOBO.com.
And I'll definitely link to that in the show notes as well. So they can just go right to the show notes for this episode and click on it.
Yeah.
So awesome. All right. Well, is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't?
I don't know. No, I'm floating on a little, even after just one quarter, I'm floating on a little cloud already.
Well, and you made me floating on a little cloud, just listening all the things the benefits that you're getting and then how you're feeling and the lovely things you said about me. Well, thank you so much first for putting your trust in me and becoming a client inside BRB. And then also for sharing your thoughts with us today on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Nathalie, for being on the podcast with me and sharing all those amazing tidbits about your experience with BRB and with me. Success in BRB comes down to a few key ingredients. Each of these business owners that I've interviewed in this series, starting with episode 252, and then 253, and then 254, plus this one, share in those few key ingredients. Those key ingredients for success that each of my BRB members believe in and have, or alignment with the philosophy and the methods that we teach inside BRB. They're willing and do the work. They're not just willing to do the work, they actually do the work. And they trust in the process and understand there are always going to be ebbs and flows. While this wraps up our 4-part series on sharing a peek inside business owners who are doing the work to build a referable business, I have more BRB members lined up to bring you another series like this soon. But keep listening every week right here to the Roadmap to Referrals podcast as we teach you how to build a referable business. Again, the show notes page for this episode is stacybrownrandall.com/255, and Stacy has an E. And coming up next week is episode 256. And we're going to be discussing your referral ecosystem. I bet you never thought of it that way. Don't worry, you're going to have fun with this episode. Until then, you know what to do. Take control of your referrals and build a referable business. Bye for now.